After more than 9 months in space, 2 astronauts have finally returned to Earth.
And splashdown, Crew 9 back on Earth.
Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams splashed down off the coast of Florida in a SpaceX capsule. The two were originally meant to spend a week or so at the International Space Station. Issues with their Boeing Starliner prompted a longer stay. The astronauts are being monitored by flight surgeons as they adjust to gravity before returning home. Butch Wilmore credited his faith for getting him through this extended stay.
My feeling on all of this goes back to my faith. It's bound in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He is working out his plan and his purposes for his glory throughout all of humanity, and how that plays into our lives is significant and important. And however that plays out, and I am content because I understand that. I understand that he's at work.
That's beautiful. And for more, we turn now to Michael Pravica, professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Michael, great to be with you today. So as we mentioned, the 2 astronauts are being monitored by flight surgeons as they return to gravity. Let's talk a little bit more about that, what they might be looking for and the impact that space could have on their bodies.
Well, thank you for having me on. We have to understand that outer space is extreme conditions. You're basically dealing with a weightless environment. You're also dealing with extremes of temperature and solar radiation, and also the stress, because if you make certain types of mistakes, you may not make it through those mistakes. So, and then of course, we were, evolved or created, however you want to look at it, as basically in a very unique situation of gravity. And so you don't have gravity. So of course you're going to have issues with muscles, use it or lose it. And so they're going to have to retrain basically for reliving on Earth.
So tell us a little bit more about that as well. I mean, what will they have to go through? That is physical therapy, other methods to get them, I guess, ready back to return to life as normal.
Yeah, I mean, so there's going to be a lot of physical therapy, basically learning, standing, walking, running, bicycling, all sorts of activities that will help retrain their muscles and build muscle mass so that they're able to withstand, for example, just standing against gravity. And so all of this will take some time to get back to where they were before they left.
Yeah. As we mentioned, they were initially only supposed to be at the International Space Station for around a week, and then somehow it turned into 9 months, as we mentioned. Is that something that we have seen before? I mean, was this delay unusual?
I think it was unusual because right now we have a very strange period of space exploration where there are efforts to commercialize it. And, basically, when you look at something as complicated as going out into outer space where we were not meant to be, basically there's so many issues that sort of transcend corporations and even in some sense transcend nations and really should be a global human effort. And that's exactly what happens in the ISS, the International Space Station. The problem is that when you're, bringing these for-profit entities into the mix, and then issues with who's doing what the management and who's leading the effort, you are going to have these kinds of problems arise.
Yeah, Michael, quickly, let me ask you this. We talked about possible, impact on their physical bodies, but what about their mental health? Is that something else that they'll be looking into as well?
Absolutely. I personally, I have a family, and I would be devastated if I was supposed to go for about 8 days for a trip, and then it ended up becoming 9 months. And then again, as I said, there are so many systems on board to sustain life in this International Space Station. Every person that's on board has to participate. They will have responsibilities, tasks, and so then the stress of having to follow through on those tasks. And of course, knowing how we call it Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will. All of these machines and these complex instruments and techniques are susceptible to errors. They're susceptible to just equipment malfunction, and so being able to fix those on the fly introduces a tremendous amount of stress, and so I'm sure they're going to need a really good long vacation.
No doubt. We're going to be praying for them during this period. Michael, thank you so much. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you very much. Anytime.